Hmm, I feel like I need to do something, for my community. How can I use all of my resources to, I have the perfect idea. Wait, feels too familiar. Been there, done that. I want a different vibe. This is way too cramped. Nah, a little too formal. Kind of like the Last Supper. Nope. Hello there, I'm Renee. Nah, that's a different show. Hey everybody, welcome to Situations and Conversations, where we aim to empower, enlighten, educate, elevate, and of course, entertain. I'm your host, Renee, and I appreciate you joining me. I am so excited about today's situation. I can't wait. Let's just get on into it. Mental health matters. Why don't more people seek help, particularly in communities of color? Well, I don't know if you can hear the mm-hms and the ahas in the background, but I am so pleased to present our guest on this topic, Dr. Keith Dempsey, PhD, LPC, Associate Dean and Associate Professor at George Fox University. Thank you, Dr. Keith Dempsey, for joining us today.
Thank you. I appreciate the hype.
I mean, man, you hyped yourself. You hyped yourself.
I love it.
I mean, overachiever much? Yeah. But that's okay. That's okay. I'm happy that you're here. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much. We stand tall on the shoulders that have come before us.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I've known you for a long time.
That's right. We go way back.
In our mental health circles,
yes,
as well as our fellowship circles at church, and your wife and your son. And I mean, we family.
That's right. You came by the house on my 50th birthday.
I did. And you were so happy. Everybody was doing the good old pandemic drive-by.
Absolutely.
Music was blasting. Somebody had some serious tunes going up and down the street. I don't know who that was, but that's how we celebrate, right? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
We're here for each other always, and particularly now, when it feels like people are in more need of mental health care than ever. And so let's get to the situation that the person referenced. They want to know, why don't more people seek help, especially in communities of color? Why do you think that is?
Yeah, in communities of color, we have that thing in Black households. What happens in this household stays in this household.
Oh, yeah.
In addition to that, we have a history with mental health, or we have history with hospitals. We have history that's not so good. When you think about experiments, Tuskegee.
Oh yes.
Right, and things like that. So there's a mistrust that the Black community has with health and mental health and so on and so forth. In addition to that, there is a thought that if you need to go see a counselor, number one, you're crazy.
Yep.
Number two, maybe you ain't right with God.
Yeah.
And you just need to get right spiritually. But in some of the work that I've done with clergy, even clergy have talked to me and they said, you know what, Keith, we have gifts. However, I believe that God has given folks gifts to be able to deal with things that we can't deal with outside of our scope of practice, outside of our realm. Yeah.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because as a person of color, a woman of color, growing up in my Black household and community, it's often lean on Jesus for every single thing. And nobody's saying that you shouldn't. I mean, I most definitely do. My faith is no secret.
Right.
And, because I won't say but, and lean on those who the Lord has gifted with particular talents and skill sets to help you get through this world, because it's hard out here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. And we kind of do these things where we shame people for getting help. So there's a part that we need to own, and there's a part that history needs to own.
Well,
and now we're in a place that folks are saying, we just need some help. And I don't know where to get it.
Right.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, though, a personal question, but professional too.
Sure.
Why did you get into the field of mental health? Because, I mean, you have the same sort of background and know about the same stigma that's associated with counseling or therapy. What made you want to get into it?
I think it was that personal connection. I went to Benson High School. It's a polytechnic high school. And I was a machine technology major. So in there, I said, okay, I'm going to go to Oregon State, or I'm going to be a technical, something, something, something. Well, I'll even back up.
Mhm.
Um, Before that, my advisor, my counselor, told me that I probably wasn't college material.
Oh, oh, one of those.
Sure. So I
Mhm.
had a black counselor in the school who was also my track coach, and and I just put it aside and said, that's not something that I can do. I mean, because this guy with all the credentials on his wall says that, I'm not college material.
Mhm.
Um, so my counselor, who was my track coach, called me in and said, you need to fill out this application for Oregon State University. He made me fill it out, and he said, either you fill it out or you don't run.
Oh, okay. He
So
knew how to get your attention.
exactly. So I just filled it out. I didn't even think about it, and I got accepted to Oregon State University. And then, at that point, I was like, man, what do I do? So went to Oregon State University,
Mhm.
urged by my mother, but it was that personal connection that I always remembered.
With the
And
track coach and
with the
yeah.
track coach,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And also my mother, who was the best counselor that I ever knew, and she didn't walk on the college campus until the day she helped me enroll. But
Wow.
that's another story. So it has been modeled for me
Okay.
for years. So I thought I'd do something fancy, like be an engineer, like my wife.
Right, exactly. Shout out to Tiff. Okay.
Exactly. And I just realized that it's that connection with people that I love the most. So with that being said, I said, man, I want to connect with people. I want to give back to my community that people deem to be so negative,
Mhm.
and that's what brought me here.
I am so glad. And I
Yeah,
think so many people have been so blessed by that initial connection. And thank God
yeah,
that for that track coach who spoke life
yeah,
and truth into you when the lies are the ones that we have constantly been
absolutely.
told by people that we are supposed to look up to, who we think have all the degrees and the
Yeah,
answers. And like you said, the credentials on the wall.
yeah,
And they tell us something. And I mean, it's so important. Understand, educators, anybody who speaks to children, you really can
mm,
impact a child's trajectory one way or another. And thank God
yeah.
that you had some other
That's
people,
right.
the community, some other elders who spoke life into you. And now look at you, speaking life and helping other people
Yeah.
live their best lives,
Absolutely,
live their
absolutely.
best
And
lives.
that coach, Leon McKenzie, I got to give him a shout
Yes,
out. So
please
he might be
do.
mad about it, but he's that dude.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
that's awesome. I
absolutely.
appreciate that and stories like that because you know that you're
Yeah,
not the only one that experienced something like
yeah,
that. And
exactly.
maybe some other young person didn't have somebody else tell them
Yeah,
that this is the path that they should explore.
yeah,
And so, yeah,
exactly, exactly.
thank you for that. Thank you for
Yeah,
that. So like historically, I know you're also a historian
yeah.
in a way. Historically, can you speak to some of the trauma that communities of color have experienced that would lend way to how people are even actually living out their lives today, either in
Absolutely,
function or dysfunction?
man. That's a huge conversation, but I guess I can start by saying um, everything that happened with George Floyd. To some,
Yeah.
that was brand new. To our communities, okay, we've been living in that.
Hmm.
The only difference is, our mourning is usually in private, and now it was brought out to be public, which was still more traumatic because then you have to deal with questions and things of that nature.
It's true.
You're staying away from the water cooler at work because people are like, what do you think about it? Have you
Yes.
ever thought about, or have you ever experienced racism, so on and so forth. So um, I digress a little bit, but man, everything from Tulsa, the Tulsa riots, it's not new.
The Tulsa massacre.
That's right. That's right. For to the Watts riots, from Rodney King to Martin Luther King to where we are now, this is not new. So sometimes when that trauma comes out, it's manifested in rage and anger,
Hmm.
as it should be. But what happens is when white people show their trauma in the ways that they manifest their trauma, they get treatment.
Yeah.
When we show our trauma, the way we manifest our trauma with all those years that you're talking about, all those years of pain, we get in trouble.
Good. Yeah. In
Th-
trouble or dead.
Exactly.
or killed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. So all of that, and we don't think about uh, the racial trauma in terms of um, something can happen, Trey, across the nation, and your husband can get up and see the news and be affected
Mhm.
for the rest of the day.
For
That's
sure.
that's racial trauma. That's racial trauma, and people don't see it that way. I I created a class at the university called racial trauma, and when I go and I around the nation and I talk to some of my colleagues, they say, Keith, what are you doing? What are you teaching? I say, I'm teaching this class called racial trauma. There's two responses.
What?
One, that's dope.
Yep. Okay.
The other, interesting.
And I laugh because anybody, anybody who's, well, we understand what
Right.
that means.
Exactly.
Anybody who's lived in this trauma,
Right.
lived in this culture, you know what that means.
Yep. Exactly. So, so the first response means exactly that.
Right. It's dope. Awesome.
Yep.
Go forth.
Yep.
Yeah.
We know, like we know that being a black person in this world is traumatic.
Hmm.
The other, I don't see trauma through that lens. I've never thought about race and trauma being together. So, which tells me that at the university, we've got work to do. And in the counseling room, we've got work to do as well.
Seriously, I'm still a licensed therapist here
Yeah,
in the state of
absolutely.
Oregon. I don't practice, I don't do my private practice
Yeah.
anymore, but I remember
Yeah.
talking to kids and hearing their stories
Yep.
about their day and how it would be so vastly different from their white counterparts
Absolutely.
when certain things would happen,
Mhm.
expressions and reactions to certain things that happen, or even some of the questions.
Yeah.
Even being questioned can be traumatizing to
Absolutely.
us because it's like we're not even sure how we should respond.
Mhm.
We don't even
Right.
know how we haven't even had to really think about it because it's so ingrained a lot of the time that we're just doing. We're
Yeah.
just going,
Yep.
going, and not thinking about what does all that mean and why every single step this way, why did I take that as opposed to a step this way or this way and how I behave. And it's so much. It's so much sometimes that I just want to shut it off.
Yep.
I just want to shut it off.
And like you said, it's ingrained. And so we don't realize that um, it is exhausting to always think about where am I at? What am I saying? How am I sitting? If I'm a tall brother, okay, I don't want to come in and I don't want to be, too loud. I
Mm.
don't want to intimidate or,
Mhm.
how close am I to this person? It is absolutely exhausting, but we do it knee-jerk reaction. So sometimes we don't even realize how difficult it is. And so when it manifests uh, you know, through our health. You know, we don't understand what's going on.
Right.
Everything seems to be going all right. No, it's not going okay because it's surrounding us every single day. And we got to be able to acknowledge that and understand that.
Absolutely.
So it
And
can
this is
heal.
why it's so important.
Yep,
And why the
absolutely.
work you're doing is so
Yeah.
important and the many therapists across the country
Yep.
doing this kind of work.
Yeah.
And no, Robitussin don't fix everything. I just keep thinking back like, oh, I got this. Okay, just take a teaspoon of tussin. It'll be okay. No, it's not going to be okay. We have to work on ourselves. And one thing I used to always say, which I know you've probably said and heard a million times, but we can't say it enough. If you can take care of your physical health, and there are a lot of Black folks who do, okay,
Yeah.
we're not saying that all Black folks don't go to the doctor, but
Yeah.
there's some reasons why we don't as a people.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go to the doctor
Yeah.
to take care of your physical health, you
Right.
get your wellness checks, you
Sure.
stay on top of everything. And if you broke your arm, you'd go seek treatment, right? You want to
That's
get it
right.
fixed.
That's right.
Everybody, it's not just communities of color or Black folks in particular,
Yeah.
everybody needs to have a mental wealth health check.
Yep.
Don't you think?
Absolutely.
Like it should be automatic. As far as I'm concerned, all the insurance companies, like
Yeah.
they pay automatically,
Yeah.
no copay for preventative care. How
Yeah.
about we start doing some of that? I know this is a greater conversation,
Yeah.
but I honestly feel like stop with the,
Yeah.
oh, you have to see it. You have to see the pain and the injury in order to treat it.
Yeah.
No, we can feel it. And guess what? It's getting treated,
Yeah.
not by us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We getting treated. We getting handled out here because of some of the trauma that we've experienced. So people have questions, Dr. Keith. Okay, so I want to make sure that we get to the people. Go ahead.
Before you do that, I want to double down because you said, hey, that's for everybody, but even more so for us.
I agree.
Because we haven't been in a trusting place to be able to seek out and get this help. And sometimes when folks have sought the help, it wasn't someone who looked like me, and it wasn't someone who understood me. And most of the time, those folks felt like I was doing so much explaining, I never got a chance to do any healing.
That's right. No, you are so right. I'm so glad. Double down all you want, because that's why you're here, okay? This is so important.
Yes,
all right,
indeed.
so to my powers that be behind the scenes, I would love to be able to roll to the first question from the people.
Hey Trey, my question is, being married to a black man, how do I support him in meeting his mental health needs?
Did you hear Tara's question?
I think she said she's married to a black man.
Yes.
How can she support him?
And his mental health needs.
And his mental health needs. Number one, believe him.
That's the first thing. Believe him.
Believe him. Believe him. George Floyd has a lot of interracial couples, who felt like, hey, we understand each other, socially conscious, this and that and the other. A lot of times those couples really didn't understand. This is deeper than what I thought it was.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times folks didn't understand, okay, why won't my husband leave the house now?
Right.
A lot of times they don't understand, okay, why is he so strict with the kids?
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't let them run around, not understanding that they don't have the same privilege that maybe a white kid would have. So number one, believe him.
Believe him. That's so good.
Him. Absolutely. Yep. And if he wants to seek some help, a lot of times, I've got that phone call saying, hey, my husband's black. We want to see you. And he won't see anybody else but a black person.
Yes.
And not understanding what that means. But eventually, when I get those folks together, we have that conversation. And so they can understand why that's so important. So believe him. Believe him and support him.
Yes, and everything. Because here's the big thing: there's so much that people don't understand.
Yeah.
Right. On any given subject, but particularly this, right?
Yeah.
And not only do you not understand it, but be accepting of what you don't understand and
go.
open
Right.
to learning.
Yep.
That's the key. That's the key to me for everybody.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
But particularly for Tara's question.
Sure.
Excuse me. I love that. I believe him.
Yep.
That is so dope.
Yep.
Okay. And I mean that. That's really dope. Not interesting. It's really dope. It's really dope. Okay. I know we have another question out here.
Hey Trey, my question is, how do black men find different ways on how to express themselves? I know it sounds cliche, but as a black man in my family, at least in my household, I was taught that you don't never talk about your problems. You just deal with your own issues and you keep it moving, and that's deemed as strong, right? A black man carries a lot of weight on his shoulders. He never complains about it or expresses himself, and that is deemed strong. When in actuality, it's really not. Not being able to talk about your problems actually creates more issues involving mental health. And so another one of my questions is, how do we break that cycle with our children? How do I teach my son or my daughter that you always have to talk about your problems no matter what, and what ways can they express themselves as a black individual?
Ooh, thank you, Freddie.
First of all, the brother answered his first question.
Right? And sometimes we just need an avenue, right, to talk it out, right?
And secondly, Freddie need to be right here on the couch talking to us,
We may just have to do that after this pandemic. Yeah.
But his piece, man, how do we turn that around? And I'm going to share a colorful anecdote.
Okay.
When I was young, I got in a fight with this big bully. It was right outside my house. And he was 2 or 3 years older than me, and he was twice as big. And my father watched. And, when this kid handled me and I started crying, my father came out and said, "You're just a sissy. You're crying. Why are you doing that?" And my mother had she had the wisdom to be able to say, "No, you're not a sissy, baby.
Mhm.
That's okay.
Mhm.
You're showing emotion. So to answer his question, wow, to go back and to do things different, the hyper masculinity that we were taught. No, we don't have to pass that on. We can tell our babies that, you can express yourself. When the young men are in session and they start to cry, for the first time in front of somebody, and they, feeling, oh, Dr. Dempsey, I'm like, no, that's man stuff right there.
Yeah.
That's man stuff right there, dog.
Yeah.
And, and just the fact that I would say that and put it in that frame, it's just different and just kind of frees them to be able to express themselves, and hopefully they can go on and do the same. So, but being able to do that, just, changing what didn't work for him, and, framing it in a different, well, the brother answered his own question.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. But you know what? Sometimes we need confirmation, right? From somebody that we trust, with all the certificates on the wall, all those same things that we look to, that we see in other people, that we think we see, we need to find within our own. So the brother, Freddie just needed you to say, yes, that's the right track.
All right, you got it, Freddie.
But as you were talking, Keith, I thought I was gonna, I don't know, I'm getting emotional because when you talked about that, I remember, and my dad, God rest his soul, I'm a daddy's girl. I love my daddy. In my mind, he could do no wrong, right? Well, of course he could, but I remember as you were telling that story that my dad fussed at my brother, my baby brother. He's 7 years younger than me. He's still a baby to me.
Yeah.
So he came home and somebody had stole his bike, like hit him, beat him up or whatever, stole his bike. And when he got home, he was crying and he was really upset. And my dad was like, get your ass up.
Yeah.
Suck it up.
Yeah.
And we're going to go find your bike. And when we do, you're going to beat that kid up.
Yep.
And I remember thinking, inherently, deep down, that just doesn't sound, something's wrong with that, right? But again, he's my dad, right? I looked up to him and everything. So I wanted to be big, bad, and tough like him. So I was like, okay, go on out there and get your bike.
Yeah.
And so my dad went around, searched around. Walter's crying.
Yeah.
I wanted to tag along.
Okay.
Just because I was nosy like that. I think some things don't change.
Right.
I just had to be checking it out. But Walter's crying. They find this little boy on this bike.
Yeah.
My dad pulls over and is like, now you get your bike back and you beat him up.
And watches him.
And watches him.
Yeah.
Like you said, watches him.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting in that backseat feeling terrified
Yeah.
and really like, this is not okay.
Yeah.
Because number one, the little boy was not Black.
Yeah.
And we're Black in this neighborhood where we are one of the onlys.
Sure.
And I just, all these things were in my head, like, what's going to happen? My dad's going to get arrested. Walter's going to get arrested.
Right.
How am I going to get home? This boy, he shouldn't be getting beat up. He did a bad thing, but why don't we just call the police?
Yeah.
Because we don't call the police.
Yeah. Right.
Because we couldn't call the police. We didn't feel, he didn't feel like that was an option.
Right.
We have to always feel like we have to take everything into our own hands.
Right.
And like you said, it's traumatizing.
Yep.
It's exhausting.
Yep.
And it's not right.
Yeah.
It's not right.
So as you share that story, and thank you for sharing that, with me, there were a lot of things about my father that upset me. And one time my mother said, baby, sometimes people do the best they know how. So when I hear that brother who asked that question, and he's saying, now I know to do different, well, do the best you know how now.
Yeah.
Because my father and your father did the best that they knew how. Yeah. They probably didn't have room to emote. Of course, they didn't have privilege. We don't know what their circumstance was. But that's why I do love that question, because like you said, there was something inside of you that said, this is wrong.
Yes.
I mean, you a whole grown man.
Right? Like, what's going on here?
Exactly.
How are you driving a kid around or watching your child fight somebody else? Like, that's not okay. We should not be aspiring to that.
Exactly.
That's not strength.
Yep.
Actually.
Yep. Right. But the beauty of that, my father and your father thought that was a teachable moment.
Yeah.
Really thought that was a teachable moment. But we do the best that we know how. Hurt people. And now that we know different, we
We
can
do
do
better.
different.
We
That's
can do
right.
better
Yeah,
and do different.
that's
I
right.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Whew, I didn't expect that.
Yeah. Right.
But this is what happens when, these situations are not
Situations.
unique to
Yeah,
us.
right.
Freddie, Tara, other people out here, they
Yeah.
have questions. They have situations. That's why this conversation is so necessary.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Whew, thank you. Thank you. The eyelashes still on? Okay, good, because we don't want that. That would be traumatic. Okay, so, let's lighten it up just a little bit. So I always ask my guests about their hobbies and their pet peeves,
Yeah.
and they're always so interesting, and I mean that in the best way.
Yeah.
So yours are no different, very interesting. Let's
Is
start
that-
with the hobbies.
is
I
that-
mean, I can tell the brother is fit. He says he likes to work out. That's one of your hobbies, all
Okay,
right?
is that right? All
Yeah,
right. Okay. I got on my Jake
I
from
mean,
State
you got your
Farm,
nice little tight
you
little
know.
sweater on, showing some little muscle action. I see you. Okay, you working out. Okay, that's real. One of the other ones is you like to lead a youth step team.
Oh man.
So
okay.
this is the part where you get to brag a little bit about your fraternity.
I put that Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated.
Always got to put that on the end.
But here's the thing, though. In college, this is where it came from. In college, went to Oregon State University, as I mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
and we wasn't a lot of black folks on campus. A lot of brothers, not a lot of sisters. And one time, this sister was leaving campus. She was going. And I remember I said, "Sis, you can't leave. I mean, it's we need you." Here."
Right.
And she said, "Keith, you don't understand. You have your fraternity brothers. That's your support." And sometimes when you're young and in the midst of something, you really don't appreciate it and
Right.
understand what it is. But that's what it was. My fraternity brothers, was my support. And of course, we do stepping. That's what we do.
Of course, yes.
And I realized that stepping wasn't just stepping. It wasn't a competition. Every time we got together for step practice, even if you weren't on the step team, everybody was there.
Yes.
It was about the fellowship. It was about being together. So it was about lessons of unity, brotherhood, and love. So I said, man, wouldn't it be real cool to be able to do that with the youth? So you're referring to the work that I do at Rosa Parks Elementary School.
Mhm.
Haven't been there for a while because of COVID.
Right.
However, I take a group of men, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, teach them steps, and they perform at the 5th grade graduation.
Oh, that's
teaching
awesome.
them, the lessons of unity, brotherhood, and love. And it's kind of like a thing where we work really hard, and it doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
Yet we work together. And sometimes I want to laugh at each other when somebody doesn't get it. And I say, is that what we want to do? Is that helpful?
Okay.
How can we support each other? And he's going to get that step a little faster than you get that step. But at the very end, if we don't all have it, then what does it matter?
That's right. That's
And
right.
then we have this beautiful product at the end, and they're like, whoa, yeah, we were dope. No, you are dope.
That's yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you can get the kids and everybody back together,
Yeah.
can we come?
Oh,
Can
absolutely.
we come? Because I would
don't-
love to see a good old step show. I haven't been to
Yeah.
one or performed in one in many years. I'm a Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority incorporated member.
Yes,
and
indeed.
and so I used to get my step on too, but these
Okay.
old knees now. I don't know. I might have to watch. I'm gonna watch. Okay. Another one of your hobbies is that you collect dope t-shirts.
Yeah, I do. I'm looking at your production man over there. He's got
Yes.
the Black Panther. I saw that when I first came in. So,
we like our statement tees, and I
yeah.
have to send a special shout out to your son Manny.
Oh man,
Manny Fresh is off the chain
This
with
is
his
this-
designs. He designed a t-shirt for me.
he sure did. I saw you on TV, so this is a great plug for that. So my son, as you know, Manny, when he was growing up, I just make my kids aware, like, how come we don't see folks who look like us?
Yeah.
And he noticed that the superheroes, that ain't no superheroes. And so, he picked up drawing, and that's what he wanted to do. He said, I want to draw people that look like me turned it into a t-shirt business. He has a good momager.
Yes, he does. Because she definitely gives the plug. She gets it out there.
Absolutely. So, so his shirts are among, some of the dope t-shirts that I collect as well.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. I love your whole family. And you know
Yeah.
I love you.
Yes, indeed.
And I
Thank you.
totally appreciate you being here and
Yes,
sharing,
indeed.
dropping these gems and sharing this knowledge
Yeah.
that's so necessary. And hopefully it's received with the intention in which it was given.
Yeah.
And that people will definitely work on their mental health and
Yeah.
seek out providers.
Yeah.
That's the last question I have for you.
Sure.
How would you recommend people find therapists, let alone therapists who look like they do?
Yeah. Yeah. Difficult kind of question, because now folks who have been staying away from that because of, the climate where we're at, they're saying, man, I need something.
Mhm.
I'm not functioning at work. I need something. And now, we don't have, a lot of folks who look like me to do the therapy.
Right.
And that's not to say that, you can't go to somebody who doesn't look like you. However, you need to go to somebody who's culturally sensitive, culturally responsive. So a lot of times, white clients don't mind calling you up and saying, hey, I want to talk to you. I want to have a consult, and I want to, what are you doing, this and that and the other, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Sometimes we don't feel like we can do that. And we can. We can have a 10-minute consult that says, okay, what do you think about George Floyd?
Oh, so you can, so that's good. So people
Yeah.
can actually have a consultation
Yeah.
to get a feel
Yeah.
before you jump all the way in and
Absolutely.
then have to switch out. And sometimes that still may happen though.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what do you think about, the fact that, I'm a Black person, and, you're a white person, and, I'm aware that you have different privilege, and I might feel some type of way about that.
That's so empowering.
Yeah.
That we can, because a lot of us, we're nervous to say anything.
Yep,
We
that's
don't
right.
want to offend or come off,
That's right.
aggressive.
Sure.
All these words that
Yep.
we've been labeled with, right?
That's right.
Thank you. Options. We
Yep.
have options.
We do.
Man,
I heard one brother say to his therapist, she was a white woman, and he didn't like what she was doing, and she wasn't being too nice to him. And he said, you know what? I hire you, and I can fire you. And it was a different type of deal. And I don't think she was too worried about being fired.
sure.
But it shook her that he knew who he was
Yes.
and his place. Yeah.
I love it.
Yep.
So good. We're going to end on that because,
Okay.
man, that's a nugget. That's a
Yeah.
goodie right there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I cannot thank you
Appreciate you.
enough. I really do appreciate your
Yes,
time. And please
indeed.
come on back with the kids and any other conversation and situation you want, because you are definitely dropping some knowledge.
Thank you, Trey. Appreciate you.
Absolutely.
All
All
right.
right. You guys, man, that's going to do it for this episode of Situations and Conversations. Thank you guys so much again for hanging out with us. Remember, if you have a situation that you want to have a conversation about, please do hit us up on social media, or you can drop us a comment below. And until next time, make sure that you take excellent care of yourselves and others. And when you think me, think we. See ya. Man, right on.